Hey friends, Russ here, having more daisy lever gun fun. And back on the workbench, I thought you might be interested in what we've got going on today. If you remember a while back, on one of the videos, I decided to try to make a new style caulking lever work in one of the old style guns. So I took this old number 111 Model 40s, which uses this particular type caulking lever. And I know a lot of folks, whenever they can't get these or they can't make one effectively, what they'll try to do is adapt one of these levers and make it work. They move the hole, sometimes they'll extend the nose a little bit, they'll do a little bit of cursing and bending. But what I did, if you recall, is I modified the gun to make this lever actually work on the gun. And to do that, the three things that we modified were cutting the notch in the front here a little deeper to accommodate the swing of the caulking lever. So we cut that notch back. We moved the pivot hole up to where the new lever actually uses it. And the little bridge underneath here, which was pretty thick, we cut back probably just a little more than halfway. And that accommodates the swing of the lever up here from hitting the receiver. And it worked great. Worked every time. So I thought we may as well just go ahead and see what else we can do to improve this gun. There was an old Red Ryder plastic stock on here. It even has Fred Harmon's name embossed on it. Looks pretty good. It did have the same problem all these have. It was warped, and they all seem to warp to the left. So I tried a little bit of heat and took my wife's UGG glove out to the shop and decided I was going to try to squeeze it and bend it under the heat of a heat gun. It took out some of the warp, but it also caused a bubble on the back side. Not from the heat, but from actually trying to move it. There was nowhere for this side of the stock to compress and make itself straight. So we got almost all of the side warp out, but we caused another deflection up here. Not a big deal. This stock was pretty much out of it anyway. Although it is usable, it's better than nothing. We could put this in the better than nothing department. The nose on this one was broken off. All these plastic stocks seem to have that problem. And so I created a little nose on the front that falls inside the receiver so you don't see it. Made sure I drilled and tapped that to the proper size for a coarse screw to hold the top of the receiver on up there. And I think I might just put this one back on simply because I don't know what else to do with it. This gun also has a lot of issues. A lot of dents. This one is not going to affect the operation of the gun. Looks like somebody smashed it in here, so it's not pristine. I was happy to see two things though. The original saddle ring and this staple that goes through and is peened over on the other side is still intact. And this sight was not broken off. It has a single tack weld holding it. But if you see the adjusting screw, and we did a video on how to make replacements for those in a pinch, it's still there. That's an original adjusting screw. Inside, that was another story. Whenever I took off the plunger assembly, the leather was a little bit small and I distorted it somewhat taking it off. But I can always replace it with a rubber cup. Now I did save the air tube that leather seal was attached to, and I thought at some point in time, instead of using a replacement like that with a new air tube, we might just try to make a leather seal just to see if it works out. Homemade leather seal rather than one stamped out with a factory punch. This is about a 27 or 28 coil spring. It's very strong. It gives the gun quite a bit of punch, but look what happened to it under pressure, under time. It has quite a warp to it. If it still works, you say, well, what's the big deal? The big deal is with that much of a warp, it doesn't get a smooth travel over top of the shaft, and without the smooth travel, that makes more friction. More friction gives you less performance, and it also takes its toll on here. I don't know if you can actually see this, but it looks like this is bent in a little bit. We can work with that. We'll fix that up. Now, the shot tubes on these are the screw-in types. This one is in pretty good condition. I cleaned it out, and see if we can get a look down through here. I don't know if we can. There you go. Hold on. Yeah, there. Pretty clear down through there. I swabbed it out. Used a little WD-40. The retainer for the BB, when it funnels its way in here, it's supposed to have a retainer to keep it from falling out the front. That's always missing. And thanks to a friend that we have named Rick, he sent me some retainer clips that he makes up, and I made up my own off of his example. And I was able to tweak it. It worked pretty good. Thank you, Rick. How do you make one of these? If you have a retainer that you can use for an example, you can draw it out. And I made this little jig. I drew the retainer on here, and I put these nails to act as pins in strategic spots to hold it in place. And whenever everything seats properly, you get it bent properly, it should lay right on there. Worked pretty good. So this little 111 Model 40, it's sitting on the workbench, and I think even though it does spit BBs pretty well, I think we're going to be able to make some improvements on this, and maybe I'll make some more modifications just for fun. After all, it's not a very pristine example, and I think is a good candidate to experiment with. And you know, I just can't leave well enough alone, so that's where we're going to go with this. There it is, folks. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any comments, I'd love to hear from you. This is Russ. See you next time.